Welcome back to Construction Executives Live. I'm your host, Jeremy Owens, owner and founder of U.S. Construction Zone and 3 Generations Improvements in sunny and perfect weather, Folsom, California. Thank you for being here. We have another great show for you today. In thinking about today's show, I was thinking a lot about leadership and listening and how I deal with that with my own team. And I have been so fortunate to have such positive leaders in my life. And that's my dad, Kurt. So it really, truly is amazing that if you have a positive, caring, and loving person that is your leader and mentor, the trajectory of your business and your life, it just takes off. And so I'm very fortunate to have that person in my life and to be surrounding myself with others as I go down my journey in business. If you don't have that person, if you are struggling to find that positive energy, that person that you can rely on in times of need, whether that's a business question or a life question, now's your time to find that person. And it's easier said than done, right? It's not always a friend that we currently have. It sometimes is somebody that you haven't met yet. And if you haven't found that person, I encourage you to keep looking, whether that is getting into a leadership group or going to conferences or even hiring a mentor or a coach that can come alongside you and help you get to the next level of your business, but also more importantly, get to a more positive space in your life. So if you're struggling to find that, please feel free to reach out to me. I know a lot of people, but also feel free to reach out to Coralee, who we're going to be talking to today. Find that person in your life so that you can really feel more happy and more fulfilled in this life, which could be a simulation. I have no idea. So anyways, we are sponsored by the great team at Build 12. Build12.com. Automate your construction business into a revenue generating machine. Set up a free demo with them at Build12.com. Tell Les and his team that I sent you over there. He's going to take care of you. I use that in my remodeling business, and it is great. It's more efficient for me. I'm replacing people. I just feel a lot more valued in taking care of every lead that I get that comes across my desk. So please take a look at that. We have a great show for you today titled Listen to Lead, and we're going to discover some powerful strategies to truly hear your team. We're going to foster some loyalty, create some mentally healthy workforce. I mean, everything that we really need to get our team to be, not just more loyal, but to be yours. I get the pleasure to chat with Coralee Beatty from ThriveHQ today, and we are going to explore how active listening and effective communication can transform your leadership style and build a thriving company culture from the ground up. Coralee is the CEO and catalyst for change at ThriveHQ. Coralee Beatty is on a mission to help make construction industry of first choice as opposed to the industry of last resort. After more than 25 years in the industry and successfully selling her trades business, Coralee is now a business consultant, speaker, and trainer in construction. Using the concepts from her book, Hiring Secrets for Trades and Construction, Coralee helps construction companies strengthen their leadership and build a company culture to reduce turnover and where people are loyal, engaged, and contribute to a growing bottom line. Please help me welcome Coralee Beatty. Coralee, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your history. I mean, you were on my side of the fence back years ago. So tell me a little bit about your history in construction.
Yeah, my journey in the construction industry started as a building envelope consultant back in the mid-90s. And I was doing that for 10 years where I did project management, I did construction management, I did a lot of design, building design from an envelope perspective. So I did a lot of different things within sort of that 10-year span that I was doing that. During that time, I met my husband, who's a plumber by trade. And we started a plumbing business together. We started out as plumbing and hydronic heating. And over our 15 years in business, we expanded to be full mechanical. And we started out in business because why not? We want flexibility and freedom. Everybody wants that. Make more money, all of the things. And we had a solid foundation where we both had background in the industry. I came from a corporate background, so I knew a lot about the business sense. So there was a lot of experience behind us. We weren't just jumping into this without knowing anything.
Right.
And it was still challenging for us. Like after probably around the 7 to 10 year mark was a lot of years of hell. And, you just get to a point where you grow so much that you just don't know, the balls are in the air and you just hope that you can just not drop the most important ones.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, and then we sold that business just over 6 years ago. And we've been on a journey for, what's happening next for us as, just things evolve. And I recognize that I have a lot of lessons that I learned that I feel like if I hold on to those, I'm doing a disservice. I really want to be able to share them as much as I can and help the next people coming up behind me to learn new lessons. Like, don't do the same ones I did. Just don't, please.
We're very similar that way, and that there's a lot in your head, and you're not afraid to share it. And yeah, like you, like if you feel like if you're keeping it, then you're not bringing up the next person. And I do that a lot with my labor force. Like, hey, what do you want to do? Where do you want to be? And trying to help take them to the next level. So how has that been for you from construction owner to mentor? How has that transition been? Because it's not always easy for folks.
Well, it's not, because I think, I know where I came from as far as what I believed to be true as I'm a Gen Xer. So I have certain mindset about how we work, how we do things, and and that's how it started out for me. Like in the beginning, I was very much, you have a job, I pay you, just do your job. Like that was kind of my approach. I really didn't understand, the whole people side of it so much. I didn't see where that came into, my position as a leader within our company. It's just like, well, I will give you the tools. I will give you the information. I will give you all the things that you need. Why can't you just go do that and be happy? So, there was a lot of, just figuring it out and recognizing when I got over myself and what I thought my people should need and actually gave them what they wanted, life became so much easier. Like just things for me, because I was the problem, not them. It was me that was creating that resistance and that, but that's not the way it should be. It's just, I like, okay, let's just remove this and get over yourself. And then, everything changed from there for me.
Yeah, it's crazy. Me being third generation, like what my grandpa did in the industry, what my dad experienced, like there's nothing similar to today. I mean, there's just not one thing, besides the power of networking and having a network. But before they had a Rolodex, you had quarters that you would use to go to the payphone. I mean, it was just so strange. But, it's funny thinking about those Gen X, and I did an article and I had a podcast about that because I'm curious how we got to the way we are, but also we have to learn those because we got to manage a different way, right? And we can't just do it like everyone thinks like us, because they don't.
No, exactly. That's exactly it.
Yeah. So I wanted to get back to, before we got into some of the solutions of leadership, let's kind of talk a little bit about how we got here as an industry. I mean, obviously we get a little bit stuck in our ways. We've been very man-centered for pretty much the entire existence of construction. So how did we get to a place of really struggling with leadership skills, especially when it comes to, compassion, listening, communication in general? Like you said, like it was do your job, shut up, that's it.
And get louder if you need to.
Yeah. So how do we get there? And and do you see some improvements in some of that area?
I'll start with saying I am seeing some improvements. And I think that if I didn't, I don't know that I'd be doing this, because it'd be really frustrating.
Yeah.
I think that, back in the olden days, like, say through, we'll start in the 80s, just because that's kind of my, from the history of my working world, growing up space. I think through the 80s, 70s, 80s, the workforce, they went to work, and then they came home and they lived their life. They weren't looking for fulfillment through their job so much, because a lot of people, the trend, the way that things were, was you got a job and it was your career. You stayed with one place for 30, 40 plus years. Like that was your job and that's what you did. And you went to work and you did that thing. They gave you money. You came home, you lived your life.
Yeah.
And I think as we have evolved as people. And I think, where I really think it comes down to parenting, where each generation has it easier or has had it easier. As a parent, you want your kid's life to be better than yours was. So you make it easier on them. And you get through a certain number of generations, and all of a sudden you get to this place where they are used to things being easy and winning all the time and always getting those medals and being celebrated and graduating kindergarten, and just don't even get me started on all that stuff.
Right.
That's where we are today. And I think that it's just each generation has made life easier for the one that's coming after it. So when you take an industry like construction, where you have a lot of testosterone, you have a lot of ego, you have a lot of men running the space, and then all of a sudden you have these kids that like things to be easier, the two things create this, it's a conflict, because, the kids want things to be easy, and in the industry that's filled with testosterone and macho and strength and all of the things, it's just like, well, this isn't easy. We're here to work. We work hard. And I think that in itself gets passed from generation to generation of leaders within the industry. So I see, like, even leaders today that are, say, in their late 20s. So just like they're a 4-person, or it might even be a site super, they're leading a crew, whatever it happens to be. That group of people is still learning on a large scale how to be the leader of yesterday, which is yelling and, freaking out and throwing things and communicating that way. And the message is picked up. It is very clear. Things are not right.
Right.
And that's not sustainable. The people on the receiving end of that, they are the ones that are taking it personally. They don't like being yelled at. They're not used to being yelled at. They don't respond well to that, and they will leave. Yeah. So I think it's just an evolution of passing down of the leadership style within an industry that is very male dominated, or male populated, as I like to say. And the generation that's coming into the construction industry is changing, and the two things are creating a huge conflict to really be sustainable. It's just not.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think that there's, piggybacking off that, there's also this mental health crisis that comes into our cultures as well. And, I've done a lot of talking about this. There's a lot to deal with that, including substance abuse, and just the overall mental health of our society right now, social media. There's a lot of things that really impact our lives. But in construction, that's got to be a component. Are you having fun at your job? Is it stressful? I would say a lot of people say it's stressful. Are the workforce they're getting hurt, and then they're going to getting medication? Like, there's all these things that are coming together, and it's created a crisis where we're number 2 out of all industries, and we tend to be there, and we've been there for the last 5 years or more. And so now we're talking about it a little bit, but what do you see as some of the problems with the mental health, and maybe some of the solutions maybe as well?
Well, I think some of it is just the nature of the job, which is, you can be working long hours, and, we have a huge portion of this sector that is, traveling, being out of town, in camps, whatever happens to be. And, that's a whole other thing. But just, if we're talking about, within people who commute to work every day, and that section, you are still working long days. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of yelling. There's a lot of physical labor. It's hard on the body. And I think the macho environment that is still very prevalent, it's still what we're dealing with here, is putting a lot of pressure on people to be okay when they're not okay. And they're not okay because of pressure, because of lack of sleeping, because of, not eating properly, because of not exercising in a way that's actually serving their body, as opposed to beating up their body on a job site. Like, there's a lot of things that we experience on the day-to-day job that just deteriorate our ability to cope. And then we go home and we figure out different ways of coping to manage. And that could be substance abuse. It could be, playing video games or watching TV. Like, it in some way is filling a void. And social media is another one where people spend a lot of time just, burying themselves in something that's a distraction.
Right.
Otherwise dissatisfied, not happy, not fulfilled in any way. So like you said, all of these things are coming together to create what, as they say, the perfect storm of crisis within our industry. And we need to be doing things to serve the people, we can't fix it all. We can't, and that's not me being pessimistic. There are a lot of things that go into this, everything from, your genetic disposition. There are some people that's their challenge. And then other things are environmental. Other things are what you're exposed to through screens or TV or whatever happens to be. There's a lot that goes into this. And in the construction industry, we can do so much more to not exacerbate the situation, but actually to make it better for them, to alleviate some of that pressure, that stress, that burden that they feel on a daily basis.
Yeah. And there's all these things that come together. So we have leadership, mental health, and company culture that are all kind of melding together within your own business. And they're all very related. And you can't take one away without affecting the other. So if like you have really crappy company culture, then that could potentially affect mental health, and that probably means your leadership sucks. So like there are always something that, they're all very related. So thinking about mental health and also leadership and company culture, how are they all related? How can we maybe start chipping away at all of these together? And what does that look like? I mean, how do we do that if we've never done this before? We're first time being a business owner. We don't have it all figured out. So how do we chip away at some of these?
Yeah, and what we've seen in the past is, how things have been managed on sites, which is not effective.
Yeah, our modeling, it sucks. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So the question is, where do you even start? And I think the starting point, whether you are a leader within a business or you are a business owner, whatever your position is, and even as somebody who maybe you don't have direct reports, maybe you are just a worker that it wants to, elevate to become a leader at some point. I think the first thing to understand is that leadership is about creating other leaders. So that is your role. And it starts with leading yourself. And even though that seems really, that's not the solution we need. Like, let's get to the meat and the bones. It is like, you need to be able to lead yourself first before you can lead other people. You need to understand how you affect other people, your reactions, your emotions, the way you answer questions. Like you just need to understand who you are and what you respond to, what your triggers are, all of those things. When you can be aware of yourself, how you are in certain situations, that's the point at which you can start to kind of, mold things and you can change things. Because without that level of awareness, you just have no idea and you are reacting as things get thrown at you. So that, I think, is a starting point. Just, read some books, do some investigation, ask yourself some good questions like, what is important to me, or one of the interesting things is understanding your own values. And when you can understand your values, how you can identify your values is what you think about is, when is the last time you got angry? If you can think about the last time you got angry, chances are it's an underlying value that triggered your anger. And because some people, they don't even know, like, how do I identify what my values are, what's important to me? And that, I think, is really important to understand. So just ask yourself, what are the types of things that trigger you, get you angry, set you off, get those reactions? And why is that happening? Like, ask yourself, okay, why am I responding in this way? And that'll start to stir up some awareness about what's important to you. Right. When you can get that awareness and understand yourself a little bit better, it doesn't have to be fully, because I think this is a lifelong journey. It's just a starting point.
Sure, yeah.
To actually interact with other people and use that information in a setting where you are building a culture, improving your mental health of your people, and becoming a better leader. It is understanding next what your people want, need.
Right.
So your people. When you can focus on what your people want, that is going to get them to connect with you. Ask them questions. It does not have to be some grand formula that you need to do X, Y, Z, and Z and all of these things. Like, it's just, it's not complicated. Get to know your people. Yeah. Be interested in who they are. What do they like? Are they married? Do they have kids? What do they do on the weekends? Like, just get to know your people and establish a relationship, establish a connection where you demonstrate that you actually care because you care. Right. Like, you can't pretend this.
Right. That's a big one, though. That's a big one.
It is. And I think when people understand that when they care about their people will take care of them. Take care of your people take care of you.
Yeah.
And I think so many people, business owners, and I don't blame them. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of, there's so much going on in your head all the time.
Right.
Like you are in panic and survival mode.
Yeah, you are.
It's like you're focusing on yourself because you have to.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to. As soon as you turn that energy outward and put as much energy on your people and taking care of your people, you'll create a connection and they will be there to serve you. And they will step into positions to help you. Because this is the thing, is that depending on the size of your company and where you're at, a lot of people, it's just like everything is on me. All the decisions, all the direction, all the emergencies, all the errors, all of it is on me as the leader. What you need to understand is that when you can trust your people, build a relationship so that they can trust you, they will start to take some of that load. Through training and leadership and showing them the way, they can start making decisions that don't have to be yours. You can give them the responsibility to make the decisions to a certain level that you feel comfortable with. Like it works this way. It's about building the relationship and not just demanding and giving and do this and do that and then come back. It's the transformational leadership versus the transactional. Like, just don't give them something to do and tell them how to do it and then have them come back to you. There's no growth in that.
Right. So how do you do that? Like, so let's just say you're a medium-sized business, and do you recommend starting as a whole team, like do some icebreaker things, like where you're actually starting? Because a lot of folks haven't done any of that. They haven't talked about their kids. They have no idea if they're married. They have no idea what they do like outside of work. Like, exactly. So, being authentic is important. So you can't just go out and be like, hey, my mentor said that I need to, if you start that way, it's going to come off bad. So how do you start doing it? And then maybe is the other option creating more one-on-one time with your staff as well?
Yes. So I think your first thing is you need to change your mindset, like shift your mindset about what it is that you're trying to build. Get out of your own head and understand, like, see the bigger picture of what it is that you're trying to build. You cannot do this on your own. You need people, and people need connection. So understand that it is about your people. It's not about you. So just shifting your perspective so that you become a servant of your people as opposed to your people being your servants.
Yeah.
And when you can do that, then I'm going to have to write that down, sir. I like that.
Yeah.
I haven't actually put in those words.
It's recording. You can just check it out.
Yeah, I haven't actually put it that way before, but that's exactly what it is. So when you can understand that, then you give them what they need. So you can set it up this way. You can shift your mindset, understand that, okay, I'm going to start taking care of my people. That's what I really want to do because I really do care and I want to build my business and I want these specific people to come with me. I want them to be the leaders. So you can have a meeting and let them know that, things are changing around here. I'm going to be doing things differently. And you can introduce the idea and give them, like, plant some seeds to help them start to think about their own possibilities, because what you want to be doing when you do these one-on-one meetings, because that's really the true starting point. Plant some seeds to what you want them to think about before they come to that first meeting with you, because the information that you want them to think about is, what do they want in their life? Professionally, personally, financially, recreationally, health-wise, like all of the areas of their life, what do they want? Like, just take the work part out of it. And this is my job and I want to be able to be a project manager one day. Like, just take that out. Maybe that is part of it, but think about what they want outside. What goals really excite them? Because I think that very basic thing, most people in our industry don't even consider for themselves. And I think when you give them the permission to start thinking about that, then it kind of pushes their boundaries of what they see possible for themselves. Because a lot of people don't see themselves elevating to higher levels than what they're at. Like, I go to work, I swing the hammer, I come home, I have a beer. Yeah. What do you want outside that? What would excite you? So plant some seeds, give them some questions to answer. Like, what would you love to be able to do in the next year? Like, what is an area of your life that if you could go on a road trip, or if you could go on a vacation, or if you could reach a certain point in your career, So give them some things to think about so that when they come to that first meeting with you one-on-one, arrange a one-on-one, and with your direct reports, because this is going to just determine, or it's going to depend on the size of your company. If you have, you're a leader of hundreds of people, you're not meeting with hundreds of people.
Right.
Meet with your direct reports. Your direct reports are going to meet with their direct reports.
Yeah.
It's all going to look the same. It's all going to be, what do you want to achieve in whatever number of years? Is it 3 years? Is it 5 years? What can I help you get to? Let me help you set a goal and let me help you get there. This is how I see you reaching that goal in my company. I'm interested in helping you get there, and I'm excited to help you get there.
Yeah.
Like, building that and having your people actually have the freedom to think about that and start to get excited about it, that in itself will have them showing up to work with a little quicker pace and moving a little bit quicker on the job sites, because now they have something invested. They know that you have something invested in them. And it's a relationship. It's people just want to be part of something, contribute to something, and have somebody care genuinely.
Yeah, no doubt. And we titled this Listen to Lead because this is such a huge part of this whole exercise, right? Is usually managers, owners, we're already talkers. We're used to, commanding the room and doing the talking, and maybe even talking for people sometimes.
Yes.
So, open-ended questions I think would be a good idea. But what is active listening to you, and how can we really make sure that is the number one thing is, hey, we have these questions, and then you're shutting out because you don't want to lead them. And before you know it, they're leaving going, well, that was a waste of time, So what can we do there? Active listening. Yes.
This is really the foundation of communication as a leader, because ultimately, and I know that I made these mistakes, like you're in a meeting and everybody's quiet. You're like, okay, well, because he's like, you ask them a question, nobody offers anything. Well, let me give you my solution. And when you are the leader giving your solution all the time, or giving your ideas first all the time, everybody's just going to be like, well, that's just the way. I know it was for me. I had a very difficult time having people take responsibility because they always saw me as the person making the decisions. So it is keeping your mouth quiet, listening to what they have to say, and getting everybody to contribute. Like whatever your meeting space is, everybody is required to contribute something, because by doing that, one, you get the quiet people who would never say anything. They have to say something, and you get a good sense of what people are thinking and different perspectives and different ideas. And then as the leader, you just keep your mouth quiet until the end, where you're gathering the data, you're gathering this information and seeing what it is that's important to your people, whatever the topic happens to be.
Right.
And that's what you need. So you are listening to what they say. You're not listening to respond. You're not listening to prove them right or wrong. You are listening to understand what they're saying. Yeah. And in doing that, you want to do it from their perspective, because we all have a different way of seeing things, the right, the wrong, and the real way. Like there's always different perspectives. And when we listen, when we are actually listening to their words, listening to what they're saying, listening how they're responding, looking at them, watching them, you can learn so much from a person just through their body language, whatever, anything. And when you can understand who that person is, what their perception is of a situation, and respond from that point, understanding their position, it's a lot more effective, because they will hear you. They will hear what you have to say. They will hear that you identify with them. It's having empathy. It's connecting. So it really is just being curious. If you really disagree with what somebody is saying, instead of in your head thinking, I can't believe they say this. Why do they believe this? How can they possibly think this? Why would they think this of me? It's not what I mean. That's not what I say. Instead of thinking all of these things in your head and trying to prove them wrong, get curious and ask questions.
Yeah, it's so important what you just said. It's the word that most of us don't really know a lot about in construction is empathy, right? It's how do we actually find out what makes them tick and understand it? Not just surface, how do we actually understand where they come from, why they think the way they think. It's really a difficult exercise, right? And probably a little bit of a learning experience for a lot of us. It's not going to come natural, I don't think.
I think one of the easiest ways to make that switch is to understand that what they are speaking is their truth. What they say is their truth. Even if you disagree and you know that they're wrong, it is what they believe to be true. And so you just, okay, if this is what I were to believe, if their truth was mine, what would I think about that? What would I be, just start to take it on as, okay, this is the way they're seeing things. And then, ask them questions. That's really interesting that you see it that way. Can you tell me more about it? I'm sorry that you took the interaction that way. It was completely not intended that way. Can you tell me more so that I can clarify where I miscommunicated? Right. And I think another really important part is just exactly that, is taking a lot of responsibility for the way things are interpreted when, say, things go sideways or people misunderstand, or it's something happens and something happens on a job site that was not what was supposed to, and that's not what you communicated, and that's what they heard and that's what they did. So how did that happen? How can I fix my way of communicating with you? How can I understand you better? It's just taking responsibility.
That's super powerful. I mean, obviously that's a life lesson right there. I mean, if you could communicate that effectively with your spouse or with your friends, with your family, then that's a game changer. Instead, we want to win all the time.
Yes.
And honestly, in construction, we're probably number one at this. We like to win. We're used to winning. We're used to getting our way. So how do we stop that? And I know that it's easy to say, like, hey, if you want to create loyalty and engagement and trust and all this stuff, this is what you need to do. But before you know it, you're right back to where you were, and you're trying to win, and you're like, crap, how do you do that?
Okay, that's a huge question, because
my bad.
No, it is a start of a really interesting. It's ego. It comes down to ego and your need to be right. The fear of being wrong. What is it that you think is good? Primally, your primitive brain, what do you think is going to happen to you if you're wrong?
Right.
Or if you're learning from some punk kid who's half your age, there is this resistance to listening.
Sure, yeah.
I've been in this for 20 years and you're just coming in and you're going to show me something. Well, you know what? Actually, if you're open to that, it's actually, it's interesting. So
yeah,
it really is understanding that your ego is there to keep you safe and does not serve your best interest. And when you can understand, when you get your back up, when you're responding, when you're reacting, when you're triggered, that is your ego getting you in defensive mode because you're feeling threatened. And so, I mean, the conversation goes deep, and to be able to manage your ego and understand, a couple of things that I did, because I was that person. I was a woman in construction who needed
I have a little bit.
We need it. We need our ego. Don't get me wrong. We do. Yeah. It has a place. Absolutely. And it has way too much control over most of the people within the construction industry. Right? Women, men, all of us, because we have something to prove. We need to be right. We can't be vulnerable. We need to be seen as strong. As women, we're proving that we belong in this space. As men, it's I'm dominating because that's what I'm supposed to be doing here. There's a lot of psychology that goes with all of this. And when it comes down to it, for me, when I was started to get over letting my ego run so much of my life and my decisions and my controlling everything, it was allowing myself to be vulnerable. And allowing myself was something that I was forced into. It's a whole story, but I was put in a position that was very non-threatening. And just the person I was that needed to control everything, that this was my bed and I was going to lay in it. And if this is how I created my life and I needed to be taking care of it, all the things. I never asked for help. And one day I was put in a position where I needed to ask my neighbor to watch my 2 young kids for 10 minutes while I ran down the hill, because we were building a house. It was chaos. It was mess. This is 2009. 2008, 2009, market crash. It was a chaotic time in my life. And I needed to get my neighbor to watch my 2 kids. And that for me was the hardest thing to do. But I surrendered in the moment because I'm like, F it, I cannot do this anymore. I need, and so I just asked for help. And that first time doing it, I was like blown away at how easy it was and how much it actually served me. She was happy to help. Of course, she was happy to help. I'm her neighbor. She could watch my kids for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But it's understanding that we make these huge monsters out of such little things. And if you can allow yourself to get vulnerable in a situation where you just surrender and just say, you know what, I don't know that answer. That is a great question. Yeah. Let me find it out. Like just whatever situation you find yourself like feeling that threatened, like I need to come up with and panicking, surrender, let go. And just the everything that changes after that very split second, because it only takes a second when you're willing to do it.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I think this is our entire life is majoring in the minors, and like, you know, those little things become big things because you're used to those things, and maybe you're modeled that growing up yourself. So that just feels natural. But man, I wish people had more perspective in just their day to day. I mean, instead of being so stressed out and angry and road rage and all the things that we do as silly little humans, to just take a second and go like, wow, this isn't a big deal. You know, kid having cancer is a big deal. You know, parents dying is a big deal.
Yes.
Those things are, you know, how do you get back to that the real big things? Because it feels like some of these managers, and I met them, every single thing is your kid's got cancer. And you're like, whoa, that is not that big a deal.
Yeah. There's 2 things that helped change it for me, the way I looked at things, like that whole road rage thing. Like I drive a big black truck, and when I'm merging on the highway, you can't miss my truck. Like, why are you squeezing me out here? Like, oh, it would just get me so angry and riled up. And these are the 2 things that worked for me. One was I decided that people were not getting up in the morning to come piss me off. Nope. Like that. Sorry. I'm not sure. Anyway,
oh, no, you can go. This is construction.
You know, they weren't getting up to come ruin my day. Nobody's intention was to ruin my day.
Right.
And the second thing was, and this is a harder one, I assume everybody's doing their best. If you're pinching me out in traffic, you clearly have a good reason, and I'm okay with that. I am sorry that your life is in a place where you feel like you need to do that.
Right.
Like it brought me to a place of peace in not feeling so much resistance to why is somebody so inconsiderate? Like, why are you making my life so difficult? Why are you doing this? Like, it's just like, you know what? Obviously you have something that's more important going on, because the reality is none of us know what other people are going through. Right. And if we assume that they are doing their best, it serves us, whether they are or not, doesn't matter. I remember I said that to a lady once. I was at a service office, a Canada Service, getting my passport. And there was this big lineup, huge lineup. And the lady I talked to upstairs at the desk, she said to me, she said, are they sending people up here? I was like, well, how many people are down there? I was like, I don't know. There was like 40 or something. She's like, oh, and she was like freaking out. And I said, you know what, help? I said, just assume they're doing their best. And she's like, are they really? And I'm like, maybe not, but I assume that they do.
Yeah, sure.
Here on me, I'm like, they're doing their best.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, when you are angry, when you're getting upset, the only person it affects is you. It's that whole analogy of holding on to anger or being angry. It's like you drinking the poison and expecting somebody else to die.
Right.
Like, you know, it's you that gets affected. So when you give grace to other people, when you accept that they're doing their best, you're giving yourself peace.
Yes.
You're not excusing them. You're not saying it's okay.
Yeah.
You're giving yourself peace.
Yes.
Doing their best.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. And it goes right back to all the mental health, right? It's just that if you're letting all those little things affect you, then that stress builds up, and we're just a big powder keg at that point, and you're going to explode, and it might not be at the right, it's usually not the right time. It'll be at your kids or your spouse or, or someone on a job site or a customer. And that's what I see so much in the remodeling industry is we talked about that ego and that takes over because you feel like, oh, we're right in this situation. We are right. So we are going to make sure everyone knows we're right. But that whole adage of like customer's always right. Well, it's because it's just going to get you in trouble if you don't actually do it. If you actually, even if they're wrong, you have to treat them like they're right, because if you don't, it's just going to be chaos and your whole life's going to be chaos.
This is how I do that, because this is something that was very strong for me in when I did have my business. I was the one that managed the unhappy customers, because I had this way of taking an unhappy customer and turning them into a 5-star review. And it was by the whole idea of understanding their perspective. They're speaking their truth, even if they think you ripped them off and they didn't do the job and all of the things and all of those things that just aren't true. That is their truth.
Yes.
Just listen to what they have to say, because most times they just want to be heard.
Right.
I hear you and I understand. You don't have to agree.
Yeah.
I understand that you think this, and this. I understand that your experience was this. Right. And you don't want to say but, because that eliminates all of it. And this is what we did to do this or that. And this is what we plan to do. And this was our intention. And like just laying it out so that the person on the other side feels heard. So they know that you heard what they said. You can say it back to them. What I hear you saying is this. And when they hear that you heard them and are actually listening, they soften. Yeah. Stick to the facts. Stick to the facts, because facts do not elevate conflict. You stick to the facts. I understand this is what you did or didn't do, or this is what we did or didn't do. You can't elevate. And I've seen it so many times, and it's really satisfying from a very calm perspective when somebody's trying to elevate it and getting angry and they just can't, because you're not fueling it. You're just like, I hear you and I understand you. And I hear what you're feeling and what can I do? Because the thing is, if you ask them, what is your solution? How can I make this better for you? Most of the time they have no idea. Yeah. They're like, I don't know, I just need to complain. I just need to yell. I just need to freak out. Because what you need to understand is that they're also going through stuff. Right. They're also experiencing things. And what they are bringing to your conversation is not the exchange between you two. It's all of the 80 years that came before, and now they're an angry 80-year-old that needs to yell at you.
Yeah. You're so right about the validating their concern, and making sure you don't have you in your sentences, right? You did this or you did that. Like as soon as you get into that, it's game over.
This is what I hear you saying. I understand that you think this or that. It's just like it's putting yourself responsible and taking ownership.
Right.
When you take ownership for things messing up, even when it's not your fault, it just appeases, and then you get to the solution quicker. Because I was always very solution. Like I didn't want to be spending. I could fight with you for an hour and prove that I'm right. Prove that I'm right, or let's focus on the solution.
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to ask you a little bit about ThriveHQ. How did you start that business? I know that you had a little transition period between selling your business and this. How did you get to it, and what kind of problems are you solving for our industry?
It was a journey. I'll give you the Cole's Notes version, because it was an evolving journey where I learned so much about what I like to do, what I don't like to do, who I like to serve, who I don't like to serve, and where I can make my biggest impact. So really, it took me 2 years between selling the business and a lot of really dark days, like the whole mental health thing. I had a really hard time saying that I was depressed, because I didn't want to attach how I was feeling to what other people feel. But I know obviously there's a range, and I experienced depression in that time. It was hard, it was dark, and it was a journey of self-discovery. And it was like one morning I woke up and it was like 4:30 in the morning. I'm an early riser. I was laying in my bed and I was just like in that sort of sleepy state, what am I going to do? Because I was trying to figure it out for a very long time, probably a year and a half. And it was like a light bulb went on. It's like, I wanted to coach other people. I didn't want other people to have to experience what I experienced, because my business for a solid of the 15 years, we had 3 really great, easy years in the beginning. We had probably, I'll say 10 years of hell in the middle. And then we had 2 years of better as we positioned our 2 to 3 years of better as we positioned ourselves to sell.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I learned a lot, and I don't want other people to suffer. There was a time in my life where, and the way I put it is that it's like I forgot how to laugh. I was so stressed out. I was so preoccupied with everything that was going on that, you know, I couldn't enjoy my kids. Like, it had taken me laughter out of my life, because I remember being in my living room one day and something, I can't even remember what it was, but something made me laugh. And when I laughed, my body felt weird. Like, I was like, what is this? It's like, you know, if you are a broken leg and you're learning to walk again, that's what it was like. It's just like, how do I, it was in that, it was a wide opening, like wide eyes to me. I was like, oh my word, I don't even remember how to laugh. And it just doesn't have to be so hard. Like, for me, it's just like, I need to give back to other people. So this does not have to be so hard for everybody. It is an industry that is hard. And it doesn't have to be. Like, ask for the help. And I give everything. I will, like, I keep nothing close to my chest. I will give you all of the answers. And if you need help to implement, I am there to help you. So through my journey, it's just like, I started with coaching women in construction, because I knew, as a woman in the construction industry, as a business owner, there was very few of us. And as a woman in the business, in the construction, you are a business owner, you're a mom, you're a wife, you're a manager of your household, you're a manager, like school and appointments and homework and sports, like you're doing it all. And there just isn't enough service to the full woman who is trying to run a business. And so as somebody who understood all of that, I needed to be the person to serve that. Like, I needed, because it just wasn't there. Like, when I had my mentors and my coaches, they were all dudes, and I was kind of the only female, and we talked business, which was fine, but it didn't serve all the other areas of my life that could really use help as well. Like, just as far as understanding and getting ideas and figuring it out. So that was where I started.
Okay.
And then I enjoy doing that, and I love helping women get, you know, more freedom in their life and more flexibility, and just breathe and be able to better manage all of their responsibilities. And then it was, I love speaking. Like, I really enjoy sharing my journey, my lessons, like these types of things. I love these things, and I love being able to share, because so many people, one, can identify with it, and two, to understand that other people have gotten through it, and these are the way I did it. So I love speaking, and I love doing, and what I've been kind of focusing more so on is people development, because what I see is the whole mental health part of our industry that is suffering. And if I can help leaders to be better leaders, that will trickle down to help people be more satisfied, more fulfilled. And so the leadership training and I call it people development more so than leadership training, because it's for everybody. It is for the people who have no direct reports, and it's also for the business owner. So that the training that I do is people development, just helping people to function better in life, in business, in your work, in all of the things. So it doesn't have to be so hard, because it can actually be fun. It can be fun.
Yeah, it's like, I'm sorry you went through that kind of dark phase, but it kind of sounds like you needed to go through that in order to be who you are now, right? So if you didn't go through it, then you wouldn't be this passionate about helping others. You may just be like, and if you didn't have the struggles in business, then you wouldn't have the wherewithal to help people get out of them. So it really feels like you found a good niche where you're supposed to be, maybe.
It is like this. I am very passionate about helping people, because I have been through it. I know it. I made it through, and I appreciate the journey. Like, don't make me have gone through all of that for nothing. Like, let me help you. Like, the thing is, if you can take the lessons learned and be able to, share it with others, that makes it all worth it. Like if I can make the life of others easier, it makes that hard life that I went through in that worth it.
Right.
If I just die with all that information, then what's the point? Like,
right.
let me share it.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I mean, also you know, you were author as well. Tell me a little bit about the book. Well, what inspired it? How do you use it in your business today?
Yeah, so I do have a book, Hiring Secrets for Construction Trades. And that was kind of that idea. My husband is kind of like the ideas guy. He's like, oh, maybe you should write a book. And I was like, good idea. So he's like, why don't you do this? I'm like, why don't I do that? So I did that because of all of the lessons that I had. Like that book is really focused on, I don't know if there's a word, like the leadership word is even brought up in there, because it wasn't intentionally for leadership. It wasn't about leadership. It was about creating a company where people want to work. And the reason I did is because there are so many things that you can do that cost you zero money to make your life so much better. Right. And this is just a lot of the things. Like this is just, whether you're trying to find people, it just gives you different places to look, different things to think about, and different ways to approach it. So it's finding, hiring, and retaining top talent in your industry. So finding is just giving you different ideas about, how to approach people, where to find different people, instead of just going on Indeed or, and throwing the posts and hope that somebody responds. It's like being active in finding the right people. For hiring, it talks about the hiring process, doing it right so you get the right people. They match your mission, your vision, your values, and making sure that you find they say hire slow, fire fast. Take the time to find the right person. And I know, like with my clients, when we're hiring, they're like, oh, they have such a hard time going.
Oh, yes.
Like, but I have a body and they could do some work. And I'm like, but that will cost you so much more in time and money if it's not the right person. Let's just do a little bit more research and legwork, and let's make sure it's the right person for that position.
Right.
So it's helping people figure out the hiring process and onboarding, like making sure that person is going to be successful in your company. What do you need to do? What does that onboarding process look like? Because ultimately, somebody's success in your company is up to you. It's your full responsibility. Right. Your whole company is your responsibility. Success or failure. And then there's the final part, which is retaining. And that's just planting some seeds. Like it's a relatively short book. It is a strong, like very tactical guide. Just do these things. Just do these things.
Right.
So the other piece, the retaining, is setting up a business where people actually want to work. Like it is about culture, but it's also about processes. It is about just making their job as easy as possible. And by easy, I mean predictable, because we all know that the construction industry is predictably unpredictable. And if you can make their position as predictable as possible by having processes, by them being really clear on what they're supposed to be doing, and like what their deliverables are, like what am I responsible for? When just something as basic as that, it just helps them be really clear and really focused on what they need to give to you, to your business, what they're contributing. So it's building a business that runs on their systems and processes, and then people run the systems and the processes.
Makes sense. It's a no-brainer. Get that book. They can find that on your website, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. And then also you have a podcast on there and called Biz Under Construction. So tell us a little bit about that. I know you've always been a champion for women in construction. So tell us a little bit about that podcast.
It is focused on women in construction, and I kind of alternate between interviews, like bringing on some women in the industry that have built businesses or who are building business or who are doing, things that are interesting to the audience. And then sort of in between there, I also do like solo episodes where it's just me talking about a particular topic. A lot of it lately, I got a paddleboard for Mother's Day, so it's been a few months, and I'm out often, like numerous times a week on my paddleboard early in the morning. Like I'm the only one on the lake. It is my perfect. And so as I'm out there, I'm just thinking about things. So I started like the series of things that I'm doing is called Thoughts from My Paddleboard. So not every time, it's just when something's heavy on my mind that I want to share, then I'll sit and I'll do an episode right from my paddleboard. And, you can hear the birds and the fish jumping and the loons on the lake, and it's so
nice.
So that's kind of the series I've been doing, intermittent with my interviews with different guests.
Yeah,
it is focused on women as far as, you know, that's where I'm coming from. At the same time, a lot of the thoughts from my paddleboard are things that anybody, you know, a lot of it is about thinking bigger, dreaming bigger, giving yourself permission, what's possible for you. Like, it's just thinking about things that it's not necessarily business oriented, but it's all what you need to be successful in business. So we're not talking, you know, SOPs and that kind of thing, or KPIs or your OKRs, or you know, we're not talking about those things necessarily when I'm on my paddleboard. I'm thinking about life-changing perspectives, ideas, just to see things differently, understand things differently, and to be able to just shift your mindset into something that is more serving you.
Yeah, well, I definitely have some people that I will send your way. A lot of women in construction I've talked to, so I'll definitely introduce you to them as well. And so all these things you're doing, you're, you know, speaker, an author, podcaster, coach, COO, trainer, you know, all these things. What gets you out of bed the quickest besides a paddleboard?
You know, the impact that I want to make on this industry is on the people. Like, that is where I really like doing these types of conversations, speaking, training, like doing the things that has a direct impact on people. Like, I often get, like, after I do speaking engagements, you know, people come to me and they're like, wow, like the difference that I make in a very short period of time in somebody's life, to me is such a reward, because I'm like, it comes back to that idea that of all of things I had to go through to be able to offer what I offer today, in conversation and in service, makes it all worth it.
Yeah.
I want to make the hell that I went through, you know, not being able to be the mother I wanted to be, all of those things. I want somebody else to be that mom to their kids that I couldn't be to my kids.
Awesome.
I'll leave it there.
Your passion is, it's awesome. Thank you so much for doing what you're doing. You're obviously in the right spot. Keep inspiring people to move forward and doing, you know, it's great when you're doing a business that you're actually helping people, right? You are making people better, and we need more of those people in our lives and less of the other that we've talked about today. So tell us a little bit about how people can get a hold of you.
So I'm on most platforms, Coralee Beatty. I am one of one, so I'm easy to find. Send me a message on LinkedIn, Instagram. I'm not as active on Facebook. LinkedIn, Instagram are two that I'm more active on. And my website, you can reach me through my website, ThriveHQ.ca. I am in Canada, so it's .ca. Or you can feel free to email me, Coralee at ThriveHQ.ca. I'm here to serve. I'm here to help any way that I can.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you guys for joining me. Another episode of Construction Executives Live. I love subjects like this because they matter, and they matter in business and in life. And if you can become a better leader and you can listen to your team better, the ripple effect will go for miles. So please take these little nuggets today and take them back to your business. And if you need help, reach out to Coralee or someone around you to get the help you need. Because really, honestly, it'll be better for your business, but it'll be better for your life. So